Good afternoon and welcome to this special business Q&A Budget Bahas on Kantipur television. With the budget season approaching, we turn our focus to expectations from industry leaders on policy direction, the investment climate and the overall business outlook for the year ahead. Joining us today are three distinguished guests representing leading multinational companies and industry platforms in Nepal. We have Amlan Mukherjee, CEO of Unilever Nepal. We have Rajiv Roy. We have Saibal Ghosh, co-chair of Indian Business Forum. In the next 1 hour, we'll be discussing their expectations from the upcoming budget and what it could mean for Nepal's economy and investment. Okay, I'll start with Mr. Mukherjee. In about a week, we will have a national budget, and this time, this budget is different in two ways. One, this is for the first time we have a majority government, which we have not seen in many years. And another thing, this budget is coming at a time when there is global economic crisis. So how do you see, what kind of policy expectations or changes do you expect from this budget this time?
Okay. First, the positives. The biggest positive of this budget is that this budget is being placed by a stable government, and the government has defined the priorities extremely well, starting from the 100 points program which government has spoke about, and then in the subsequent forums government has very clearly defined the priorities. The unfortunate part is that when this budget is coming in, rather than only concentrating on getting the things right in Nepal, the government has to also look at the instability which is happening around the world, and it is not only concentrated on the Middle East, there are other instabilities which are being there in the world. So, government has to do a significant balancing act. Under the situation, as I said, the good part is the stability and a clear principle. So, the expectation from my side, and I am sure from the industry side, will be, it will be a progressive budget. And what do we mean by progression? We mean that there will be something which will be long term. At least personally, I do not expect any magic wand so that all the issues and problems of Nepal will be sorted in one budget or so. But at least the direction which I am expecting from this budget, which will help in terms of the local industry, which will help in terms of starting the consumption cycle, which will help in terms of using the money which is being there in the different financial institutions and bank, and so that it comes to the consumption cycle. And most importantly, the infrastructure investment, because once that happens, and we have seen in similar economies that the infrastructure investment leads to number of other cycles, some number of other effects which are very positive to the economy. So, that is my experience.
So, I will come to Mr. Roy. Do you think any policy priorities you are looking for in the budget so that it will be easier for MNCs, or are there any hurdles do you feel in terms of lack of policies from the government? So, are you expecting some policy priorities, policy reforms?
So, thank you for asking the question and thank you for inviting us. So, over the years, I think in Nepal we have seen very short term policies. The expectation, the main expectation I think from the industry sector and everybody involved in any entrepreneurship is that the policies will now be long term and it will be stable. Okay, Nepal over the years had seen different regime change and different policies coming. Sometimes it was good for the business, sometimes it was not so good for the business. Like certain things that I think we should focus to correct is that one-stop window which the government has been talking, this new government since has come to power has been talking about this one-stop window for getting approvals. Currently also if we see for different reasons we have to reach out to different windows. Sometimes we have to go to the DOI, sometimes we have to go to the NRB. The government is very positive. They have said time and again that they will be minimizing these things. Our expectation is that if it can be transformed into a digital thing. So, more the faceless it is, the more transparent it will be and the more industry beneficial it will be. Second is that taxation should be very predictable, you know. Retrospective taxes or these type of things we should do away with, and industries are the people who will take the economy forward. So all the policies that comes, government should relook at the way that they are doing things, the laws that are in place, what all can be done away with and what all can be emphasized on, introduced to boost the industrial sector. And of course, we are talking about export oriented country, we are an import oriented country right now, we should increase our exports. So SEZs are the need of the hour. Some incentives have to come in for SEZs to come in the country. So these are certain things I think broadly will help the economy in the short term. Thank you.
Okay. I'll come to Mr. Ghosh, who has spent quite a number of years in Nepal and must have seen so many regime changes and so frequently as well. So in terms of policy, there have always been questions about like frequent policy changes, like one government comes and that comes with certain policies, and that government listens to the business fraternity, and then another government comes and there is a change in policy. So this kind of a policy break, how much it has affected or disrupted business sectors' plans to implement their industries or manufacturing sector, anything? So how do you see it?
It's a very pertinent question actually. You see, since long, all of us we are talking about policy consistency, okay, is because of that. Because, you know, any investor, be it FDI or any local entrepreneur, he is, you know, investing on a particular industry based on the other financial parameters, like what will be his taxes, what will be, I mean, if he is buying raw material from India or any third country, what will be the import duties, what is the kind of valuation he will be doing, value addition he will be doing, and what will be his revenue, right? So these policy will change his entire, you know, arithmetic. So what I feel primarily, that as everybody else also said, that right policy and stability of that policy is of utmost importance to ensure that any investor will get certain return of his investment within a period of time which he is aware of before investing. Okay. So yes, policy stability is what would I say? It's a minimum requirement for an investor to invest.
Okay. So, Mr. Mukherjee, I'd like to ask about this policy consistency thing. Have you ever come across like faced problems in terms of like frequent policy changes when it comes to investment and all those things? And how do you see this current government planning to introduce policies that will be able to attract more FDI?
Okay, it's, to me it is not a question of frequent policy changes. It is a point of having a progressive policy, a progressive approach which will help not only MNCs but even the local industry to thrive. I'll give you certain data.
Okay.
Nepal, the manufacturing industry contributes to around 5% of the total GDP. Now, it is extremely low if you look at the similar countries across the world. To me, it has happened because Nepal has decided to stay in an import based environment and import based economy. Now, what I am hearing and we all are hearing in the last couple of months is that this is the biggest policy, and this particular policy is being challenged or accepted as an issue by the present government, saying that Nepal needs to make in Nepal. The moment Nepal starts making in Nepal, the advantages are multiple, and it doesn't wait saying that the revenue will increase. With the better investment environment, the local as well as the international companies will look into Nepal. The neighborhood will look into Nepal in a very positive way. Most importantly, there are multiple companies like us, like Budget Bahas. We are working in Nepal for 30 plus years. And it goes without saying that whatever has been the policy, we have created a successful business model at this point of time. What we are talking over here is that what's next, how this will bring in more industry, how our working in Nepal, see ultimately at the end of the day we are commercial organization. We are paying taxes at the highest rate, and at the same time we want to do good for Nepal. Like I can say that what is good for Nepal is good for my organization. If this is the principle, then we want to invest more. We want to increase our business. In order to do that, the policies, it is not a, I think what my expectation is, and if I have to keep it very precise, is that first and foremost, the tax structure. Unfortunately, Nepal is one of those countries where the tax structure needs attention. I'll give you an example. In terms of import, we have inverted tax structure. So, that needs to be addressed. The raw material tax cannot be equal or higher than that of finished goods. So, if you ask me, that is one of the big policy decisions. There are things like the neighboring country done in terms of introduce GST. So, what is Nepal's equivalent to GST which will come in terms of this budget? And last but not the least, yes, as you said, what is introduced as a policy needs to stay so that people can judge and invest in that way.
Okay, so making Nepal is it sounds pretty good when everyone talks about it. But I'll add to that, like most of the investors have talked about bureaucratic delays and administrative complexity and all those things. So, what's your thought on this? Do you expect this government to address these issues?
See, definitely, I think first and foremost, as I said, there is nothing. There is no magic wand in the hand of the government to change everything overnight. And it will be very unjustified even if we expect that the government will do this. The government will bring in changes. I think what this government, I am expecting this government to do is that they will decentralize the decision making. If all the decision makings are being centralized to Kathmandu or to the ministry, then there will be a resultant delay. The moment the policy is being decided by the government, and then there is a faceless government, and the decentralized policy is being decided by the local authorities, I think the speed will continue, the speed will get much better, and also the consistency. So, it should not be that one district, one CDO is reading the policy in a way, and another district, another CDO is reading the policy in another way. So, if the government is able to introduce that, one, clarity in terms of policy, consistency in terms of the implementation, and decentralizing it to the authorities, I think the speed will follow. We do not need to bother about the speed, because all those three ultimately will result to speed.
Okay, we will continue our discussion. We are going for a short commercial break.
Supported by
Nabil Bank सँगै अघि।
नबिलको हरेक खातासँग सफलताको गाथा जोडिएको छ। देशमै पसिना बगाउँछु भन्नेहरूको स्वाभिमानमा मौलिकता जोडिएको छ। नबिल ब्याङ्क केवल एउटा ब्याङ्क मात्र नभई तपाईको परिवारको हिस्सा बन्न पाउँदा हामी कृतज्ञ छौं। नबिलको हरेक खातासँग सफलताको गाथा जोडिएको छ। देशमै पसिना बगाउँछु भन्नेहरूको स्वाभिमानमा मौलिकता जोडिएको छ। नबिल ब्याङ्क केवल एउटा ब्याङ्क मात्र नभई तपाईको परिवारको हिस्सा बन्न पाउँदा हामी कृतज्ञ छौं।
Supported by
Nabil Bank Sangai Agi.
Welcome back. We are discussing upcoming budget with our eminent guests from different multinational companies. Now I'll go to Mr. Roy. Assuming that this government will bring policies which will be favorable to multinational companies and investors, which sectors in Nepal do you believe hold the strongest potential for MNCs or investors in the next 5 years or in the next decade or so?
So next decade will be too long a time to say right now. I will take this question in a short-term basis right now, because see, any investment needs a build-up of infrastructure. Now, in short term, what are the things that we have close to us? We have a very good hydropower. As a resource, we have got hydropower. We can go into renewable energy because we have got vast tracts of land where solar panels can be put up. So renewable energy is one of them. Of course, we are a God-blessed country. We have beautiful destinations. So tourism is one of the things that we can do. So it will also develop the hospitality industry also. Information technology and back process outsourcing. So these are certain things that the government can work in. But for that, again, the digital journey has to start. The government has to start thinking about introducing 5G, building high-speed internet highways. So all those things, work needs to be done. But at short term, in a summary, these sectors, I think, can do immediately, they can start up.
Your thoughts on this, Mr. Ghosh?
What I can add on is there, one could be data center, but primarily what I feel fast thing needs to be done is education. By education, what I mean, of course, primary schooling, then up to the graduation level, and having good institutes. If I can compare, maybe something like IIT, IIM. In fact, one of his visits, Indian Prime Minister has also suggested, in collaboration with Nepal government, to set up IIT and IIM, which initially can be started as a joint initiative, and later on maybe handed over to Nepal government. Why I am telling you this, that we need to find a way to keep our young people within the country, and quality education can only do that. If you see today, we are very happy that our remittance earning is almost 12% of our 25% of our GDP. But probably what we'll have to look beyond that, that we are losing that skilled manpower of future, and there is very less likelihood, in all practicality, of them returning probably to Nepal. So there is a constant brain drain, and that also hampers in the our domiciled population and consumption. So until and unless we effectively increase our consumption, it's going to be very difficult in future for established companies also to sustain themselves. And of course, it will be an hindrance for new investors in Nepal. So I think yes, starting from education, of course we have hydropower, but I was going to understand that hydropower window is not also a very long window. Ultimately, it has to be renewable energy, because renewable energy is becoming cheaper in the international market. Today, the wage is probably around 3 rupees per unit, and as per experts in this field, they suggest that maybe another 10 years this window will not be there, and India is investing heavily on renewable energies. So that is one point we should also probably look into.
So about like youths not being in the country, and you talked about like having skilled and educated youths in the country, but what are the ways you suggest that like youths are going abroad for jobs and we don't have jobs? So how do you address this situation? Like we have companies first and then we have youths, or we bring youths and then we start companies like
No, what I feel is that youths are living at the education level. So we need to create an infrastructure to provide quality education here. So that's the first stage. Okay. Now, second stage is that if we give quality education here, and by the time, if we start today, so we are talking about in terms of another 5-7 years. Okay. So of course, I completely agree with you. There is no one point solution to this complex problem. But if we start working today, probably we are looking 5 years down the line, probably we will be able to create other scopes. For example, yes, instead of exporting hydropower, another thing will be data center. Okay. Third thing could be computing. So these are the value added exports that one can look into in time to come, but it has to start someday. All I am telling is that if we start today, maybe we will see results in next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. So talking about like youth migration and Nepalese going abroad for employment, and that brings us remittance, and remittance, despite the West Asia war, we have recent reports that suggest that remittance has been growing. And how do you see this remittance economy and the investment, real investment economy, and establishing our own manufacturing industries and all those things? How do you see this situation, and how do you think like what kind of budget the government might be trying to, what kind of policies the government might be trying to, or would you like it to address it?
Yeah, first and foremost, a word of caution: don't put all the eggs into budget basket. Not all problems can be sorted out by one budget. That has never happened, and that will not happen. To pick up from what both my co-presenters were speaking, first we need to look at, we need to create job opportunity in Nepal. If we don't create job opportunity in Nepal, the youth, they have aspirations and they will leave the country, right, with education and without education. So they as per their aspiration, equivalent job needs to be created over here. To me, that's one of the biggest priority, because today the remittance money, which is, as you mentioned, the remittance money which is coming to Nepal today, if you look at, that money is getting saved in our banks. There is a huge fund which is lying in different banks of Nepal, and there is not enough demand for credit. So the banks don't know what to do with this money. The moment it's a cycle, the moment you start consumption, it will lead to industry. So then existing industry will start doing better and the new industries will come in. The moment you do that, then the employment opportunity will happen here. Then a part of our youth which are going out will be retained because their aspirations will be fulfilled. And also, to take lead from both of them, I would say that while we spoke about hydro, we spoke about tourism, we spoke about IT, I have a slightly added view is that some of those basic products which are being consumed in Nepal today, if you look at, Nepal even imports agricultural products, whereas Nepal has very specialized agricultural products which has demand even beyond Nepal. If you look at the tea, if you look at some of the spices and all, so how can we do the everyday need product both for internal consumption as well as for specialized export for those specialized product. Last but not the least, in terms of pharmaceutical, in terms of the local, so as basic as the lights, the daily electronics products which we use and all. Now, government needs to decide which all are easily can be, the imports can be easily changed or replaced by the local production, and their government needs to put the money, the support, so that we reduce import and we make in Nepal. The moment we make in Nepal, it will lead to better economy and we will be able to retain our those kids who are leaving Nepal for greener pasture.
Coming back to money being stashed in banks and nobody is taking loan, what do you think? Like, investors are not apprehensive, not very confident about taking loans. What do you think? It is because of the global crisis. It is because of the domestic crisis only. We have a stable government after so many years, and we had always called for a stable government, and that should ensure instill confidence among the investors also. So, what do you think are the causes that investors are not taking loans or are afraid of investing? Any particular reasons you have thought about?
See, ultimately the bank loans are being used by two broad sectors. One is the MSME, the medium and small scale industry. If you look at today, let's take the retail part of the industry. If you look at, there are multiple, in thousands, the retail industry, the retail stores, they have closed down. Why they have closed down? Because there are reduced demand. So, the first and foremost thing, everything will, I am repeating, everything will fall in place. It is not the stable government will, only the stable government will lead to people standing in the line and starting consumption. Stable government, right policy, the industry getting, today there are industries which operate at a 50 to 60% of the installed capacity utilization. Forget about bringing new fund. The existing capacity is not being properly utilized because the global standard is you need to operate at a 80-85% capacity utilization, and then you look for again next 5-10 years in terms of your capacity. So, again coming back to the same point of saying that only the stable government will not solve this problem. It is a great help. As my co-panelist said, stable policy, driving Make in Nepal, creating the reason why should somebody come and invest and produce in Nepal, why Nepal will become a destination. The last point which I would say, and Shoaib was mentioning about the tourism industry, I will just like to give an example that even within the tourism industry, how do you bring in the luxury tourism at the forefront? How do you ensure that in one side the religious tourism, another side the luxury tourism comes to the forefront and we get tourists from all over the world. There has been a fantastic initiative I read yesterday or day before of the Nepal embassy asking the Indian reel creators and the digital creators to come to Nepal, see the different places. It is a beautiful corner of the world. It can give something no other country can give, that many mountains, that many beautiful places. So, this kind of progressive, and it might be a small step, but it is an indication that it is a very, very progressive step, and Nepal is thinking about tomorrow, started thinking about tomorrow, and today not thinking about today.
We have talked a lot about like hydropower for decades. We have been talking about hydropower and tourism, and recently we are talking about IT and all those things. So when it comes to reaping immediate benefits for a country like Nepal, do you think Nepal should be focusing on manufacturing or service sector? What do you say, Mr.
So again, like Mr. Amlan said, Mr. Ghosh said that manufacturing, yes, but what do you manufacture? Manufacturing is not just you pick up a product and you start manufacturing and it will be accepted in the market. You have to start somewhere. The starting point would be from my point of advantage. What is, as a country, Nepal, what is my point of advantage? My point of advantage is that I can set up very easily 750 megawatt plus lines, hydropower stations. I have to create transmission lines to transmit. The cross-border transmission lines has to be created. We have energy scarce two neighbors, Bangladesh and India. So they will be definitely buying our energy. So we have a sure shot, sellable product over here. If you ask me as a business leader, I see it as a sure shot sellable product. Second thing is that, like Mr. Amlan said, tourism. Now, recently Mr. Amitabh Kant was also here and he also spoke about it in details. We somehow are targeting the low cost tourism. We have to go to the luxury tourism sector. We have got beautiful places. We have got Manang, we have got Mustang. People would be amazed to go over there. We all go for vacationing over there, and every time we go, we get amazed, right? So this step that the Embassy of Nepal has taken, it is a very good step. Let the influencers come over here. Let them see what Nepal gives, provides. But at the same time, the infrastructure has to be there. There has to be good roads leading to these places. You cannot get stuck once there is snow in Mustang and you get stuck for 3 days. That doesn't give a good signal out. You have to have good roads. You have to have good facilities in terms of airports. We are a landlocked country. We will not have seaports, we will not have all these things. Unfortunately, our terrain doesn't help us to have railway also very easily. It is a very high cost. But at least the roads we can have. Most of the places from Kathmandu, if you want to visit, it is 400 to 500 kilometers. But it takes us 8 to 9 hours. 400 to 500 kilometers, if we do a similar journey in some other parts of the world, it is a 2 to 3 hours journey. Now 2 to 3 hours is a very less fatigue journey. People will be making it very easily. I think international airports, yes, we need international airports a lot. But if we have good infrastructure in terms of road, then people would like to drive in this road, with these scenic beauties. So that's one part. Another part is that, yes, we have there are discussions in that we have missed all the industrial revolutions, the IT revolution and all these revolutions. We are not in a rat race. We are a country, we can very well develop our infrastructure. Yes, the brain drain that is happening, you asked a question that what should come first, the industry should come first or the people should stay back. Now we all have manpowers, but the skill set of the manpowers, that needs to be developed. Okay. We do need high-end institutions, but our day-to-day job that is done around us are not done by skilled peoples. They are unskilled or semi-skilled. They have not got a formal training. Companies, corporates over here would be more than happy to participate in this. But again, I will be happy and participating in my industry. Currently, the CSR policy that is there, the policy is slightly to be looked by the government because it doesn't allow the industry to benefit the people in the sector. Now, I come from a paint industry. I don't know about the electricity industry or the plumbing industry or the other industry. I know about the paint industry, right? There are a lot of painters who doesn't have a formal training. If we can participate in the training of those people, we can uplift their life. tomorrow let's say they work for my company, they work for another company, that is irrelevant, but that person's life will be benefited. So these type of thought process I think should come into our these things, and Mr. Amlan said it, put it very nicely, that one budget cannot change anything, and we are not looking for miracles in this budget also. What we are looking in this budget is some stability, certain corrections, so that we can go ahead. Yes.
Something like the tax certainty and predictability in terms of policies and all these things you are talking about?
Sure, tax certainty is something very, very important. You know, I will take up a small issue. I don't know whether I should take up or not. For example, an assessment happens 3 to 4 years down the line. Now, assessment, VAT refunds, these are very, burning issues. VAT refund should be an automated faceless process. A small businessman, forget us as a big companies, small businessman, he pays TDS whenever he gets any money from any of the transaction that he does, he pays TDS. These TDS get accumulated in the tax offices. Now at the end of the year, when he will submit his assessment, then if he doesn't get a refund, how does he, his capital is blocked, right? How does he run his business? He has a small capital. So similarly, even for investors also, that is a big issue. Now you are going for an assessment 3 to 4 years down the line, then there is a slight dispute, you go to the tribunal which takes around 5 to 7 years, then the settlement of the entire process takes around 12 to 15 years. Now no company in the world will hold the money for 12 to 15 years, right? But we are in this country holding. So these certain things need to be relooked at. If the the government's intention as we see right now is very right, that they want to propagate business, they want to become friend to the business, they want to come out of the controlling governance to facilitating governance. So this is a very right approach, and I am hopeful that these things will get corrected down the line.
Okay, that's pretty important point you made. It's a big issue for investors, but it doesn't seem to be a big issue for the government or the state. So I think hopefully the government people will try to address this issue. So we are heading towards final conversation. I'll give 3 minutes each to my final question. If this year's budget succeeds, Mr. Ghosh, what measurable changes would international investor hope to see in Nepal over the next 12, 24 months, 1, 2 years, or 3 years down the line?
To be honest, as both Amlan and Rajiv said, it's not a question of 1 year, 1 budget. What is important is that we take the right steps in the right direction. Apparently, in various discussion, what I understand is that government is probably taking the right decisions as to creating, as to understanding of the priority areas. Okay. Now, how quickly those thing will be resulted into actual numbers is probably very difficult to predict at this moment. But what we very strongly feel that with right direction, probably not only this budget, the entire economy has to move in the right direction. As we all know that there are various other external challenges also during this period, and which may continue at least for the first 6 months of the present budgetary period. So considering all this, I think what we should look at is that identification of the core areas, taking right steps in the right direction, and in a time-bound manner. If you see that government's attention to take time-bound decisions till date is quite high. At times, probably faster than maybe it would have been welcomed in various facets. But yes, with the right direction, I'm sure we'll do good in future. Now, in the next 2 years, 4 years, what will happen? Very subjectively speaking, what we can expect is that the problems and the backlogs that we have in terms of decisions, in terms of, as you said, dispute settlements, all this thing needs to be cleaned. And during the past legacy period, probably there will be a lot of pending disputes which is there in the system. Probably government can look at a high level dispute settlement commission to address all these things at one go. And as Rajiv rightly said, and these disputes carry on for 10-12 years. So what happens is that you create provisions in certain cases. In certain cases, you do not create direct provision in your books of accounts, but you create contingencies. So all those things should be resolved in maybe that should be the priority of the government, that within this fiscal year, let's clean up the entire pending issues. So we are in a better platform to move ahead.
Okay. So, last thoughts from Mr. Mukherjee. We are running out of time, so we have 3 minutes or so. As we agreed, like one budget cannot change everything. So, overall, are you optimistic about Nepal's economy in the coming days? Good environment for the investors, multinational companies? How do you see it?
See, I see this, the biggest success of this budget will be if the budget can create number of ambassadors for Nepal. So, the direction of the budget should help companies like us to stand up and say that we are optimistic, we have seen a long term vision, we are assured that this consistency will remain for the next 3 to 5 years time, and we are fully aligned to the approach. The moment it happens, then the interest of the outsiders will automatically, those who have not come in. Today, there are lots of those, word of mouth happens that doing business in Nepal is difficult. With this budget, we can then stand up and say that doing business in Nepal is possible and good. My last point on this is that don't build up the expectation too high. Let me give you a small example. Not everything defined as an industry needs to be a completed goods. Today, Nepal has a huge chance of allowing value addition, bringing at a certain level and then adding. Look at the auto industry, look at even our industry. We can bring in goods at a certain level, add value over here, and then market it. The moment such kind of indications have been given in this budget, I am fully confident, I am extremely optimistic that the government of Nepal will have multiple ambassadors like us, will stand and say, if we can, you can too.
Final thoughts, Mr. Roy, 1 minute.
Thank you. So, yes, I think everything has been encapsulated very well by Mr. Shehbal and Mr. Amlan. Just to add into this, of all the policies and all these things we have said, and we are talking about remittance. There is a huge amount of remittance sitting idle in the bank. I think it is time that we talk about some financial instruments, how this money can come out of the bank, because bank interest rate today is of no use, is very minuscule, and it is of not adding value to the money. So how can we add some financial instruments to grow this money? Second thing is that India has a very beautiful model, has implemented a very beautiful model in infrastructure development, that is the public-private partnership. The transport ministry has done it very well. So if we can replicate the same thing in Nepal, I think we can speed up the the process, and it can be, you can reduce the timeline of this. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. We had a wonderful discussion with Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Ghosh, and Mr. Roy. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.